In this video, we're going to be learning about solving two-step equations. So in our last video, we learned one-step equations. Now there's going to be two steps in order to solve this equation. So we're going to first locate the side of the equation that has the variable. And remember, we're still solving an equation, so the whole point is to try to isolate that variable. We want to get x equals something, or whatever the letter is. We just want it down to the x on one side and a number on the other. So that is what we're searching for in these equations. We're going to start by moving the constant away from the side with the variable, and we do that by using its inverse operation. And then we're just going to solve as a one-step equation from that point, because we will then have done one of the steps and we'll be left with a one-step equation to finish. So in question number 1, it says we have an equation 3x plus 1 is equal to 7. So you'll notice this is a little bit more than what we saw before. We're going to start by still separating our equation into two sides, and I do this so that I can look for the side with the variable. So I see my variable right here is x. It's being multiplied by 3 and added with 1. So 3 is the coefficient, right? The constant is going to be 1. So we're going to look at the constant and we're going to get rid of that. So in order to move that positive 1 away from the side with the variable, we need to take it away, and the opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. So I do this on one side of my equation, and I do it to the other. Remember, we need to keep things balanced as we move on. So positive 1 minus 1 makes 0. So everything that is left needs to come down, and we're left with 3 times x equals, and 7 minus 1 gets us 6. So now our equation says 3 times x is equal to 6. So we look at the side with the variable again. We ask ourselves, well, what's happening to the variable? And I can see that it's being multiplied with the number 3. The inverse of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide both sides by the number 3. Remember, we do this because 3 divided by 3 makes 1 whole, and we're left with x equals 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So that means the solution should be x equals 2. Down here, I'm going to check it. I'm going to rewrite my entire equation, so 3x plus 1 should equal 7. And I'm going to replace my x value with the number that we just got as a solution. We got 2 for x, so 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 makes 7. So therefore, that is a true statement, and our solution of x equals 2 is correct. Looking at number 2, I'm going to do the same step, so if you think you got it, go ahead and pause and try it on your own. I'm going to draw a line down the middle, look for the side with the variable, so this time it's on the right. I'm going to look for my coefficient, and I'm going to look for my constant. The constant is the number that we want to move first, so this time my constant is the 8, but notice how it says minus 8. So we're going to do the opposite of minus 8, and we're going to add 8, because this is really a negative 8 sitting here, and we're going to add 8 to it. So we're going to do that on the left side as well to keep things balanced. 17 plus 8 leaves us with 25. The equal sign comes down. 5m is coming down. And negative 8 and positive 8 will not come down because those make 0. So because they add up to 0, when I just bring that down, adding 0 doesn't really do anything to our problem. So that's why we haven't been writing that part. We just bring down what's left over. So now looking at the whole problem, it says 25 should equal 5 times m. We're going to solve by doing the opposite of what we see is happening to the variable. The inverse of multiplication is division, so on both sides, we're going to divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 5 divided by 5 is 1 whole, and 1 times m is just m. So we're left with 5 equals m. I'm going to rewrite it to check. So 17 should equal 5 times m minus 8. 17 should equal 5 times 5 minus 8. 5 times 5 is 25. We take 8 away, and 25 minus 8 is 17. That is equal to what we expected. So therefore, we did it correctly. 5 equals m is the solution. Again, if you're feeling good, go ahead and pause the video. Keep trying to do it on your own. Otherwise, keep listening to see how we are going to solve these. So in number 3, we have 6 minus 3w equals 21. I separate my sides of the equation, look for the variable, so that's on the left this time, and I look for my constant and my coefficient. So the coefficient is, remember, that number that hangs out with the variable. They're like co-captains. So the 3, or this -3 here, is my coefficient. My 6 is the constant. And if I think about this 6 does not have a positive or negative sign in front of it, meaning there's this really like hidden positive 6 right there. And the reason that I'm pointing that out is because what a lot of people do is they see that there's a subtraction sign in this problem and they think they need to add. But if I add 6 to this right now, 6 plus 6 makes 12. And then I'm going to be left with, well, that is 12 minus 3w, and I didn't get rid of my constant. The whole point of this is that I want to get rid of numbers. I don't want to make more numbers. So I really want to take away positive 6, meaning I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So when I do that, 6 minus 6 makes 0, and I'm going to bring down everything else that's left. And I'm going to write that 0 as a reminder for us here, because now I have 0 minus 3w, and that's important because this is now a negative sign that is attached to this -3. Because if I have 0 minus 3, it makes a -3. So you don't need to bring the 0 down, but it is required that you bring down that minus sign from before because it is attached to the 3. On the right side, we're left with 21 minus 6, which is 15. So in order to finish solving, I read my problem and it says -3 times w. So again, we want to do the inverse of what we see. The inverse of multiplication is division, and we'll divide by -3 on both sides. -3 divided by -3 makes +1, which leaves us with 1w, or just w, and positive 15 divided by -3 gets me -5. So my solution should be w equals -5. We're going to check it. 6 minus 3w should equal 21. 6 minus 3 times -5 should equal 21. I have 6 minus 3 times -5. Oops, I wrote that wrong. Sorry, that should be 3 times -5. 3 times -5 would be -15. And I already had this minus sign coming down, so now I'm left with 6 minus -15. Well, we talked about how subtraction is the same as adding the opposite. So we're going to add positive 15. Minus a negative becomes adding that positive. And 6 plus 15 does indeed equal 21. So 21 is this right answer that we wanted, meaning that our W value of -5 is correct. In our last problem, we're going to again start by looking at both sides of the equation. Look for the side with the variable. Notice that our variable this time has a coefficient that is a fraction. Our constant is 5 here. So we're going to take away the constant first. It says +5, so it's a +5 constant, meaning we're going to subtract 5 to get rid of it. And when we do it to one side, we must do it to the other. 5 minus 5 makes 0, and we bring down everything that's left, which is 1/3 times y. That'll be equal to 6 minus 5, which is just 1. And then to get our answer, remember when we have that fraction coefficient, we are really dividing by a fraction. And when we divide by a fraction, that's actually the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 3/1 and multiply by 3/1 over here. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. That's all being multiplied by y. On this side, 1 times anything is just itself, so we're left with 3/1. 3 divided by 3 is 1 whole, and 1 times y is y. 3 divided by 1 leaves me with 3. So the solution should be y equals 3. We'll check it. 1/3 y plus 5 equals 6 was our original equation. We're going to replace y with a 3. This 1/3 is being multiplied by that y, so I'm going to multiply by 3. Add 5, and it should equal 6. When I multiply 1/3 times 3, I can put 3/1. This leaves me with 3/3 plus 5 should equal 6. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, and that is equal to what we were looking for, meaning our solution is correct.